It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. I'm excited today. I have one of my good friends, AmberJane Arquette, and AmberJane is no ordinary healer. She is running a healing practice at her home in the Pacific Northwest and online. She uses energy medicine, shamanic modalities, and essential oils as powerful tools in her sessions. Her clients feel more connected back to the natural, abundant rhythms of their life after receiving vitality and clearing lifetimes of junk. Her customers learn how to use essential oils for daily physical, mental, and emotional, and especially spiritual support. And she travels far as well as local to events and workshops, bringing her skills, her alchemy, oil blends to amplify their message and create a sacred space for lasting transformation. I also just want to say AmberJane is one of the most grounded and supportive and loving and growth-minded leaders that I know in the Pacific Northwest. And so I'm really excited to have her on the show and share some of her magic and her plant wisdom with all of you. So welcome, AmberJane.
Thank you, Molly. It's awesome to be back. I remember we talked like a while ago.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're here. And what are you most excited about in your work right now in the healing realm and, what's going on?
Gosh, well, instantly I think of some advice that I gave to a friend just the other day because she was asking the question why over and over again. And so I think that my answer will really help your audience with that pain of the why. Why is this happening? Why are people this way? And the how. Like how could they possibly do and be and make these choices? And one of the things I feel really excited about in not only my business, because the perspective that I'm going to share with you really does open, it's like, thank you for acknowledging me, Molly, for that, for someone who really tries to stay open and curious and constantly learning, because that is a state of mind. And so when we ask those questions, why, which tend to lead us to frustration or anger or sadness or even hopelessness. And when we can broaden our perspective, but also our questions of not why or how is it happening, but kind of shifting to the, how can these two things of opposition be coming together to really create massive change, which allows us to get in alignment and have even a more efficient route to that we desire. Mm-hmm. So when we stop asking the question why and we start looking for how is this actually helping us to align us to answer the prayers really that we have been holding in our heart.
Yeah.
So right now that's really exciting to me, like switching from those, I need an answer and I need this to be right, to like, well, what if it isn't right? What if I can get into this like neutral space of awareness of, okay, what do we do from here? And I love what you've taught me is like, what is possible now?
Yeah.
That really resonates with me.
Yeah. A couple more questions that come up around that people can be asking is what's right about this that I'm not getting, to open ourselves up to the perspective of the shift that we've been asking for. Like you said, what if everything that's arising right now in our worlds, like we're right now in a time of COVID and amazing protesting against the oppression of Black lives and people of color, that mm-hmm. What if the dramatic stuff that's arising in our culture and our planet right now is actually what's required for the shift that we've been asking for to occur? So what's right about this that I'm not getting, or what's coming of this that is exactly what we've been asking for? I love that perspective.
Yeah. And in a timely manner, right?
Yeah.
We need this now,
right.
Not a year from now, not in our children's generation.
Yeah.
To also answer your question about what I'm really excited about, and it's not super pertinent to that topic of what's happening now in the world, but I just wrote my second book, which came really fluid in the sense of like, oh, wow, I have all this content inside of me and all this knowledge that I didn't notice because it was woven into my everyday life, which was another piece of understanding that sometimes our greatness, our wisdom, and our like strengths or skills can be really hidden from us because we just know how to do it. It's easy for us. So like, you know, I don't have any questions about that subject. And so the subject was altars. And at first I felt like, well, what is writing about altars? Like, how can I really help people in those deep ways that I really seek to help people with profound and permanent change so that they can step into that version of themselves that they've been, you know, they get taps on the shoulders or they get aha moments that they can be, but sometimes they feel like stuck or challenged to get there. And the deeper, to me, when I kept going into altar creation, it brought in all of these understandings of a practice, a place where we're pausing, we're allowing ourselves to come into that open-mindedness, curiosity, to that connection of something bigger than ourselves that allows us to feel less alone. It also, altar creation helps us with creating a space just for us. And as a mother and an entrepreneur, and through this COVID time, I've invited another family into our home, like having that sacred space that I can go to that I know is just mine. And especially if I've been working in it, I talk in the book about creating kind of like an energy in itself, an energy bubble in that space, so that when I'm feeling down, I can walk into it and instantly my vibration can rise and I can start to feel better. And then even beyond that, it was realizing that our mental and emotional health is so connected to our environment, our physical environment. And so if someone's home is like a storage space for things, it's not nourishing. And to me, it's a fundamental like need and it for our physical, mental, and emotional health to be in a place where we're nourished. So I realized here we have the whole world quarantine and they're entering into their private spaces that may or may not be nourishing to them, may or may not be even toxic to them. And so it kind of like deepened this ability of like, this is not just altar creation. This is actually creating an environment for us to live in a space that's sacred so that we can fill up in times of stress and sadness.
Yeah. And I love what you said about that this idea was something that was so close to you that you didn't realize that it was a skill set that other people could use. I think that that's one of the biggest reasons that we overlook our zone of genius, or we overlook our like deepest work, is because we think, because we know it so well and because it's so easy or so natural for us, that everyone must know it because, you know, we're not special. That's what we've been told. And the truth is, those things that come so naturally to you are actually the things that are going to light you up so much when you're able to share them, because they're innate to you and other people get to glean that magic that you have, that zest that you have for that thing. So that is so beautiful. And also being willing to take that awareness or that realization and put it into a book, a format that people can receive and utilize and create those shifts for themselves, is such an amazing practice. And as far as altars go, I 100% agree with you. I think the same thing that we do with our writing, which is coming down and having a special zone with ourselves where we like have a date to meet our muse and actually put those words on the page. That's what an altar is for our being, for our soul, for our spirituality, that we've created this one space that we know when we go there, we're tapped in. And it can be simple or it can be elaborate. I know I have a tendency to collect too many crystals or too many like spiritual knickknacks. So my altar spaces end up spilling over into all these other bookshelf tops or,
Yes.
pockets of the room or the space.
Mhm.
And that's just adding to that vibe. It's adding to that zone. It's
Mhm.
adding to the energy that when I come into this space, I'm surrounded by that presence of my highest self, or presence of the universe, or whatever
Mhm.
guides or ancestors or spirits that I want to have connection with, to feel more wisdom and more connection. So I
Yeah.
love that A, you had that awareness about yourself, and B, that you brought that into a form that's even more accessible for people to receive. And we'll be giving you all the link so that you can get to that book if you're interested in it, for sure. Tell us more about the work that you've been doing lately. I know people are in crisis, but that you've still
Mhm.
been supporting people and doing, like we said, using energy medicine and shamanic modalities and essential oils. How do those things sort of synthesize in your work?
Yeah, I think that this is a time where we're really challenged to kind of dig deep into what is it that we believe, what is it we can vision. Like for a while when this first started, I kept thinking of that time of yes, we can look at everything that's wrong and how we don't want the world to be this way, and it's full of fear and anxiety and anxiousness, and that, you know, being on the plateau. I keep thinking of the Fool card, which I know you love tarot, but I have been using that metaphor of like the Fool, like stepping out over and over. It's not just once that the universe, that the world is asking us to step out on this, you know, abyss of mystery, of like uncertainty. But it seems to me in my life, it's been happening consistently for over a year for me. And now I see it happening to other people. And I feel like the current circumstances were like, um, you know, if you're being asked to jump off the cliff in faith, then I feel like those tools that we can use is, what can we visualize instead of seeing everything that's wrong and being fearful of everything that's wrong now? Can we shift our focus and our energy to like, well, what do I want? What do I want in my future world to look like? Now that I can't do things, can I sift through and reprioritize and even notice that maybe I don't, for introverts like me, it's like, maybe I don't want to do all these networking events every month to get to know people. Maybe I do want to be less social. Maybe I don't want to drive my kid around to all of these places. Maybe we can have more presence and richness and experience in our home, or in less going and doing. And then extroverts, I can't speak from that space, but I'm sure there's some experiences of like, what are they really appreciating that maybe they don't have ability to do right now. So I feel like looking into, well, after this time, as we are going through these phases of opening up our cities and our counties, um, and different parts of the world. Like I have a client in Italy, and they just started moving around because they've been really quarantined to their spaces and not able to move through their neighborhoods. Um, what are those things? What's that list of desires? How would you like people to be? How would you like your ideal daily schedule to be like? What things do you want people to be doing or practicing? What things do you want to be healthy? So I felt like that was like a really beautiful tool that each and every one of my clients in the last couple months have been wanting to hear, like, how can I have hopefulness in this time where I'm so freaked out?
Yeah.
And then I simply love, um there's one session specifically that I do called a dismemberment or an unraveling. And so we take the energetics of that fear and anxiety, which I always like to say it's like a pattern of a quilt, or a woven pattern of a blanket. And so it's set, when you have a quilt and it's all sewed up, you can really relate to like, that's the colors, that's the patterns of the quilt. It's not changing. But when we come in energetically, we get to unravel it. We get to take it apart. And then we get to allow spirit to help us with our desires. So having, again, that pinpointing what your desires are and weaving it to create a new quilt, so that then you're wrapped in that energetic patterning. And that's again tapping into how the universe works, as mirroring back, okay, now that I can unravel my fear to have more faith, then I can start to see how things are working out for my highest good.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you said. And I think there's so much like metaphysical new age research that has been done on the power of visioning your future and the power of like holding that vision as your intention. I mean, Abraham Hicks in the Law of Attraction talks about it all the time. Right now I'm studying neurolinguistic programming and timeline therapy, and that there's a huge part of that in overcoming limiting beliefs and in integrating the parts of yourself is seeing what that future of your timeline looks like, either without that limiting belief anymore or what you desire it to exist as. If you're imagining a better, like loving partnership than you've ever had in the past, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What kind of person do you want to be with? What qualities have you already experienced in a relationship that you'd like to include in that? And what's the feeling going to be like in your body when that exists for you? And the same is true for us changing this reality to have a different structure of our governmental systems, or a different way that our police interact with people of color, or a different way that our business can be more inclusive and accepting. What's that going to feel like to be in that space when that exists now? And what is then, what awarenesses pop up to start moving further in that direction? I think that is such a powerful tool to remind people of and to encourage people to do on a regular basis. It's part of my own daily journaling practice of, when that level of success is here, or when that level of partnership is here, or when that level of, ease and joy in my body is here. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that smell like? What does that sound like? How can I get into the vision of that future thing so that it can start existing right now energetically? And that energetic existence is what pulls it into physical reality. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought that up. It's a beautiful, beautiful point and a beautiful practice. And so powerful to do that in conjunction with the shamanic healing of healing your past or your ancestry or your beingness on a deeper level, to then bring that into practice and moving forward towards what you actually desire is amazing.
Yeah. And a lot of times what I stumble across in my work, especially with soul retrieval, so there's this interesting concept that I feel like our Western culture, like we think of curses, like, oh, maybe if I don't believe in it, it's not happening, to think about the soul fracturing, and that part of it is caught up in a space that you just don't have access to. Is sometimes foreign, and sometimes I feel like our Western brain wants to be like, well, if I just don't believe that, it won't apply to me. And what I'm learning more and more, it's like, well, if I just don't believe in gravity, it won't apply to me, right? And not to say that like everything has to be worked on in a certain way. And that's why I love that neuro linguistic programming is becoming more and more accessible to people, because I see shamanic qualities to that type of work in the studies that I'm doing. But often when we're talking about a situation where someone is feeling challenged, or especially like, I'm so trapped in the fear, or I feel like I just can't push through this, that a lot of times a part of themselves or their energy is like literally caught up and held in a space where it is not accessible to them. And so bringing that piece back in and weaving it into their physical incarnation at this time and place, this nowness, this todayness, allows them to then like have the healing that they've been really wanting to. So I've even been partnering with a couple of one NLP coach and a couple other coaches, because I feel like having the psychological and energetic work is so beautiful, because when we have all of ourself here, then those modalities and all that like mindfulness practices and all of those affirmations and things can start to, like, the wheel hit the road and there's momentum.
Yeah, because all of you is playing along.
Because all of you is here.
Yeah,
The wounded part is not missing anymore. So now it can receive the healing.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So cool. So AmberJane is also in the Magnetic Influencer Collective, which is my 6-month group program, also lovingly nicknamed Magic. And that's about both weaving the magic, the energetics of reaching, for more clients, more income, more clout, more beauty and magic in your work and in your marketing, and also doing the actual steps to share your message and grow your business strategically, and putting all the pieces of the puzzle in place so that you can have more ease and more flow moving forward as you expand your business and make an impact with more people. So what's it like for you? How's the program been going? It's been about 5 months now that we've been there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Molly, I cannot thank you enough. I cannot even just thank, the universe and your soul for incarnating at this time and helping people like me. It's been really profound working with you. It's made me realize that, how in the world could I get my my service out to the world without these structures, and these all the different systems that you help me put together. And you do it in such a way, and your support is step by step, that it makes it doable. And so it's just that, to me, just the functional, like, learning about Active Campaign and learning about Zapier and learning about online scheduling now, because now I'm going to switch to another platform that allows me to do a little bit more detailing around that. So all of that part's been amazing and profound. And then the care and nurturing that you have around helping me nurture my clients. So here's the first thing that I say, and then here's this automation that touches in with them and cares for them. Just allows me to be in more places, but allows me to bring the depth of love and presence that I want to, but I would be so limited if I wasn't using these tools that you are giving me. The other thing I want to talk about too is that all the magicalness. So, right, I am very, very spiritual. All parts of my life are very spiritual. My numerology is 7, which is the spiritual number of all of them. For you to bring this level of what you call woo-ness, and what I would call spirituality, is so refreshing. And so being in an environment where you're always bringing that in and always acknowledging that there's an energetic component and that there's a higher power supporting us, and then all of the just powerful statements that you teach us to use, the permission that I grant you. Sometimes on our coaching calls, I feel like I just want you to tell me that I have permission to do it my own way. I have permission to feel the way that I've been feeling, or take a break when I get to take a break. And the other gem that you've really been teaching me is that I can work on a project that's wanting to come through now. And if energy is starting to move me in another way, that it's okay to pause on one thing, let that come through and come back, which I was always so scared to do, that I was somehow judging myself as not completing something, or distracting myself. And I have just felt so much more ease and flow in my business, and so much more understanding of what it is I'm doing. Very, very much more organized.
And even with that practice of, yes, I can leave this for a moment to come give this new thing my attention, you're completing things. It's without the guilt and the shame around it, you can come back and finish that project and give it that final attention that it requires. I think that's the beauty of it, is we start to realize that we can do more than one thing at once, but one thing needs our attention at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so glad that you've been a part of the program. It's been such a engaged and juicy group of women that's gone through the magic together this time. So it's been really, really fun. And what's next for you? What are you working on in the coming weeks and months? What are you putting together? And I know you're in such a state of creation right now that it's amazing, all the projects that you're putting out into the world, but what are you working on
Yeah.
next?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think what I'm really working on is to educate people about soul work, soul care, and soul retrieval, because it's just really profound and powerful. Um, so I feel like right now I'm leading people through like an understanding, because one of my passions is really taking that far out there woo stuff and bringing it into a practical everyday. Yes, you can live this way. Life can be magical, which is why I love some of your work using that magic too. You bring that you bring that practical magic in another way, in another venue. But yeah, I feel like really helping people start to understand that, oh, I can create magic in my everyday, and oh, I can maybe open my perception to this, and then maybe I'm ready for some bigger work. I'm ready to maybe meet some of my guides, or hear about or just retrieve vitality and essence that has been stuck, stolen, or given away too freely. That those are very real things, and I think people can relate to it when we put it into perspective and language that relates to our everyday life, instead of into this like ethereal sci-fi woo-woo stuff that kind of has been the theme for a while.
Yeah, I love that.
So breaking that down,
Yeah,
bringing it
bringing it
to
down
everybody.
and also recognizing how much potency we have access to and what's it going to take to get out of our own way so that we can, be that almost like tuning fork for a new vibration for the people in our lives and for this reality to shift. I
Yeah.
love that. And I'm really grateful for you to be bringing that work to more people and showing up in a way that more people can receive it, because it's super important. And I think it's part of this giant paradigm shift that we're asking for. And I think watching happen in a way that we didn't expect it to be happening, but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I do think that it's not like a meteor hitting or like mass earthquakes or anything like that. So it's a little bit more gentle shift in alignment to maybe hopefully our most benevolent outcome for the planet. But
Yes.
yeah,
More peace, more love, but in a real way.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. So how can people get a hold of you? We're going to give them the link to check out that altar book that you've written
Mhm.
and launched out into the world, but how is the best way for people to find you?
You can find me on my website, which is www.amberjanehealing. And you can also find me on Instagram, same AmberJane Healing, and Facebook, AmberJane Healing or AmberJane Arquette. And that's kind of where I hang out and offering a lot of teachings. Actually, I'm also a part of Spark, which is a women's empowerment community, member community. And this week I'm reading them goddess stories, the goddess of Kali, and the beauty of dying to oneself and making room for the new through letting go of the old, and a few other stories. So that's pretty fun to I show up there and have a lot of fun sharing
Yes.
that
And
insights.
if anyone's in the Pacific Northwest or wants to learn more, Spark is an amazing event that happens once a year, also with lots of really powerful speakers and inspiring stories. And I love that it's a community that people can tap into year round now as well. Is there
Yeah.
any last words, last message you'd like to share with people before we go?
I think just really knowing that we're going to be okay, and that this is all part of us dismantling even the limiting thoughts that we've had about the way things have to be in order to get better. And so when we can start really just even asking, not even asking for the answers, not even asking for the solution, but asking to open our perceptions to something bigger than we've been able to see before. That to me seems really big, is that when we're having this narrow-mindedness, like the horses with the shades on, we can't even think outside of what we're viewing. But when we take those shades off, we can start to see that there might be other possibilities or points of view that can lead us to more happiness and health.
Yes. for your minds.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show, AmberJane. Everybody go on Instagram, follow AmberJane Healing, go to amberjanehealing.com, check this amazing woman out. And thank you so much for listening. I know the world is in a crazy time right now. If you're still listening to podcasts, we appreciate you so much. If you would follow, rate, review the show, we'd really appreciate it. And if you're listening to this in real time, I have a couple 3-hour future visioning workshops coming up. So you can go to wildheartsriseup.com/events to see when the next one is happening. And if you're listening to this out in the future, that's still the link to find out what's coming from me. So thanks for checking it out. And we hope you have a wonderful, nurturing, healing time. And we'll see you on next week's episode. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Molly.
Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to Tactical Magic. To find out more, please visit our website, wildheartsriseup.com. Be sure to take a second and subscribe to the show and come back next week for another edition of Tactical Magic.